Australian film has carried the weight of expectations that Baz Luhrmann's big-budget epic, Australia, has built over the 9 months he's been making it. It has an all-Australian cast and crew, led by Nicole Kidman and Hugh Jackman. The budget started at $100 million and blew out reputedly by another 40 or 50 mil, and somewhere along the way it somehow began to be hailed as the saviour of a struggling homegrown film industry. It's sweeping, historic and contentious. And to top it off, the Tourist Commission decided to piggyback off the film with a Baz Luhrmann-created campaign to boost the flow of international tourists down under. This is a complete change of pace for Luhrmann and his Oscar-winning set designer wife, Catherine Martin, after 3 very different films: the low-budget Strictly Ballroom, the innovative but successful adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, and in 2001, the award-winning musical Moulin Rouge. The film premieres in Sydney tonight, and I spoke with its producer, director and co-writer earlier in the day. Baz Luhrmann, what did you set out to achieve with Australia?
My creative partner, Catherine Martin, and my little family, we'd been living around the world a lot. And, you know, when you have children, you very quickly ask the question, you know, we were asking the question, we're living in Paris, you know. We're from Australia, that's our home, but what will our children know of our home? You know, what will their connection be, given that they're sort of on the road in this little circus family? And that was sort of coupled with a passion and an interest that stemmed right from childhood of those kind of sweeping epic motion pictures, those films where you could have, you know, broad comedy, big tragedy, big landscapes, big costumes, big stars, and a kind of cinematic meal that invited everybody to the table. You know, that kind of event experience.
Dollars, get him up!
You know, as opposed to, I think, in cinema a lot today, there's nothing wrong with this, but things are segregated. You know, you make an action film for 17-year-old boys. You know, Sex and the City is for older women. It's about, I am this, therefore I am sold this kind of motion picture experience. And I was really, you know, other than the musical, I had a sort of, I've had a very big passion for the idea of this cinema that used to play in my small country town, where everybody was like, you know, we're all going. We're all, you know, tonight we're all going to go, whether you're the grandparents of a family or the youngest kids. So I brought those two things together. A journey to find out about my own country, sort of on my own terms, about, you know, the history of it, the indigenous history of it, and then just to make a great big sweeping, you know, enjoyable, I hope moving, entertainment with a larger point to it.
You immersed yourself somewhat in the landscape and the bush culture.
Yeah.
What did you learn from that?
I was looking for a canvas on which to paint this story. So the canvas on which you paint these epics tend to be landscape and historical events. Now, the landscape was the northwestern Kimberley and the Northern Territory. It is not the outback that I knew, the very well-known outback. It's a dramatic landscape. It's a surprising landscape, and in a way it's a frontier still. So visually this seemed like a great place to play the story. But actually it was the historical events that really decided it for me, and there were the 2 key ones. One was the bombing of Darwin, which I knew nothing about. I was staggered to find, for example, that the same attack force that hit Pearl Harbor steamed straight down and completely wiped out the northern city of Darwin, bombed it 64 times. The details of what actually happened being covered up, the amount of people who actually died being sort of, you know, not very accurate. And then the other issue is the issue of the stolen generation and the whole process and reality of that. And the more research I did into that, I felt that these were, you know, in the same way that Gone with the Wind is a big romance. I mean, this film is a romance, it's not a documentary. But in the same way that Gone with the Wind is set against the issue of slavery in America and against that sweeping landscape.
How daunting is it? What pressure are you putting on yourself when you take on a project like this? Did you realise quite how vast it was going to be?
I cannot be dishonest about the fact that it's not, some people say, oh, you must be fearless. And I go, you've got to be kidding. And Every second night I don't sleep well, and that's my job, is once we embark on this ambitious road, and then there's the question, why the ambition? But
You can't turn back halfway through, can you?
No, Kerry. There's no, once the train's left the station, there's only get to the end or give up. There's only give up or keep going. And there were many of those moments. There were many of those, can we go on? Is it